Hi, my name is John Mcloughlin. My book, Unredeemable Sins, is now available on Amazon.com books. It's a crime suspense based on the streets of New York, primarily Hell's Kitchen and the South Bronx. It also takes place in many locations throughout the world. The main plot of the story follows three young men who met while in the service during Vietnam, all of them from New York, not from the same section. Two were from Hell's Kitchen and one from the South Bronx. And one of them, after Vietnam, became a hitman and a thug. The other one became a smuggler, a diamond smuggler, for one of the major New York mob families. And the third was a New York City cop. They all had separate lives, but they continually entwined with each other. And they survived the streets, and they survived a lot of adventures. The book starts on October the 16th, 1976, the day that Don Carlo Gambino, the head of the Gambino mob family in New York, died. After his death, a lot of things started to take place, a lot of action. People died, people ran away. The book then carries unrelated characters who some had influence or dealings with the mob, many didn't. And it actually does flashbacks from 1900 all the way up through the mid-1970s. The book is 60% historically accurate. I was meticulous in my research of that, not only from live conversations that I had as a young man with other people who knew real mobsters and were related to them, but also in my readings and research. The 40% that ties in is done in a very, very easy, merging way where you can hardly tell the truth from the fiction. But again, primarily it's truth. It takes in actions in wars during the 20th century that include the Irish-Anglo War. It includes World War I, World War II, and Vietnam. All of the characters seem to be remote from the story, but they are not. And in the end, it will show how they all fold together, because each of the characters, regardless of the era that they lived in, actually have influence on the three main characters that are the keys to the story. In creating these characters, I used fictional characters. However, they are a merge of 3 or 4 people that I knew became one character, in fact. That's how I created the people in the story. Vietnam, of course, was a great reference point because that's where they met and had serious dealings. They all emerged from Vietnam as heroes. The actual midpoint of the 70s is where they reached their crescendo. And a lot of dramatic, suspenseful, and intriguing events occurred during that year for all of them. My style is based on my readings of Puzo, Gay Talese, Peligi. Those are the kind of writers that I seem to have enjoyed the most, and I tried to create characters that they would be proud to have written about. It is indeed a mobster-based saga where I actually don't take infamous characters, be they good or bad, and just simply put bad faces on them. I actually put human faces on them, because I knew some of their children, and they were regular people and good people. And sometimes, as in life, we find, as I've written in the book, that the bad are sometimes better than some of the good. It's not always black and white. It's mostly gray, and it depends on where you're sitting and what involvement you have with certain people in life. As I've written in the book, everybody has a lot of human characteristics that are commendable, and sometimes the bad people that people consider to be bad or are written about as bad are not as bad as everybody thinks. And on the other side of that coin, a lot of the good people that everybody feel are saints and that should be looked up to and idolized are not that good. Nobody's perfect, and I show that in the book. Even my three characters, all three are flawed heroes. They all have unredeemable sins. It was a tough title to decide on because they all have and have had infractions in their life that they would rather forget about, but that doesn't make it go away. There's a lot of crime, there's a lot of death, there's a lot of murder, there's a lot of violence in this book, and some sex, and some comedy, and some surprises, many surprises that people wouldn't expect from certain characters, and that would be just a little relief to the fact that, again, they are human. I don't bring out today's headlines. They weren't dominant in the 1970s, but there are things that happened in the 70s and earlier that nobody talked about, wasn't written about, but it happened. I grew up in the South Bronx in the 1950s and 60s, and there were tough streets. There were turbulent times. The streets were tough. There was a lot of lessons that were taught and learned on those streets. Went to Catholic schools all my life. I have nothing against the Catholic Church, just that, again, there are goods and bads in everything. And I wrote about it.